Jack had always been an adventurous soul, constantly seeking out new thrills in the vast wilderness surrounding his small town. With rugged mountains, dense forests, and hidden caves, the area was a playground for someone like him. But even the most experienced explorers can encounter the unexpected. It was on a crisp autumn afternoon that Jack set out for a solo hike. The leaves, vibrant shades of red and gold, crunched beneath his boots as he ventured deeper into the woods. He had heard rumors of a hidden waterfall somewhere beyond the usual trails and was determined to find it. The air was cool, filled with the earthy scent of fallen leaves and the distant call of birds. As the hours passed, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Jack, undeterred by the fading light, pushed on, his mind focused solely on his goal. But as he crossed a seemingly solid patch of ground, it suddenly gave way beneath him. The earth crumbled in an instant, and Jack was swallowed by a dark, gaping sinkhole. He fell through the air, his arms flailing in a desperate attempt to grab onto anything that might stop his descent. The fall felt like an eternity, though it was only a few seconds before he hit the ground below with a thud. Dazed and disoriented, Jack lay still for a moment, trying to comprehend what had just happened. His body ached from the impact, but miraculously, nothing seemed broken. As his eyes adjusted to the dim light filtering through the hole above, he realized he had landed in some sort of underground cavern. The walls were jagged and damp, with roots hanging down like skeletal fingers. The air was musty, carrying the scent of earth and something else, something ancient. Jack slowly got to his feet, his heart pounding in his chest. He was about to assess his surroundings when a voice echoed through the cavern, causing him to freeze. "Welcome," the voice said, its tone calm and eerily friendly. "You're not the first to fall." Jack spun around, his eyes darting through the shadows. He strained to see who had spoken, but the cavern seemed empty, save for the stalactites and stalagmites that decorated its floor and ceiling. "Who's there?" Jack called out, trying to keep the tremor out of his voice. There was a pause, and then the voice responded, this time closer, as if the speaker was moving toward him. "Don't be afraid. We all ended up here, just like you." As Jack's eyes adjusted further to the darkness, he saw movement at the edge of his vision. Figures began to emerge from the shadows, their faces pale and gaunt, their clothes tattered and dirty. There were men, women, even a few children, all with the same hollow look in their eyes. "Where am I?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're in the underneath," said one of the figures, a man with a long, scraggly beard. "This place exists beneath the world above, a labyrinth of tunnels and caverns that stretches on forever. We all fell here, just like you." "How long have you been here?" Jack asked, his fear growing with each word. "Time doesn't work the same way down here," the man replied, his voice tinged with resignation. "Some of us have been here for what feels like days, others for what could be years. It's hard to tell." Jack's mind raced as he tried to process the situation. "Is there a way out?" The group exchanged uneasy glances, and a woman stepped forward, her voice soft but steady. "Some have tried, but no one has succeeded. The tunnels shift, the paths change. It's easy to get lost." Despite the overwhelming fear clawing at him, Jack refused to give in to despair. He had always been a survivor, and he wasn't about to give up now. "There has to be a way," he insisted. "If we work together, we can find it." The others looked at him with a mix of hope and skepticism. It was clear they had once shared his determination, but the darkness of the underneath had drained their spirits over time. Still, Jack's resolve was infectious. Slowly, they began to share what they knew of the caverns, the pitfalls, and the creatures that lurked in the deeper tunnels. Days, or what felt like days, passed as Jack and the group explored the labyrinth. They encountered strange, bioluminescent fungi that cast an eerie glow in the darkness, and underground rivers that flowed with water so cold it numbed the skin. The caverns were a world unto themselves, beautiful in their own terrifying way. But the underneath was not without its dangers. As they ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and the darkness seemed to press in on them, suffocating their hope. They heard strange noises in the tunnels, scratching, shuffling sounds that made their skin crawl. Occasionally, they caught glimpses of things moving just beyond the reach of their light, things with too many legs, or eyes that glowed in the dark. Despite the odds, Jack never gave up. He continued to push forward, driven by the belief that there had to be an exit. The others followed, drawn by his unwavering determination. But the underneath was a maze, and no matter how far they went, they always seemed to end up back where they started. Then, one day, as they were resting by an underground lake, Jack noticed something strange. The water's surface was rippling, but there was no wind, no movement to disturb it. Curious, he leaned closer and saw a faint light emanating from beneath the surface. "Look," he said, pointing to the water. "There's something down there." The others gathered around, their expressions a mix of curiosity and fear. Without hesitation, Jack plunged his hand into the icy water. As his fingers brushed against something solid, the light intensified, and suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake. The cavern filled with a blinding light, and Jack felt himself being pulled down, as if the very earth was swallowing him whole. He closed his eyes, bracing for the worst, but instead of falling, he felt a rush of air and the warmth of sunlight on his face. When he opened his eyes, he was standing in a field, the sinkhole nowhere to be seen. The others were with him, all of them blinking in the bright sunlight, their faces filled with disbelief and relief. They had made it out. Jack turned to the group, a smile breaking across his face. "I told you we could do it." The others laughed, tears of joy streaming down their faces. They were free. After what felt like an eternity in the dark, they had finally found their way back to the world above. But as they began to walk toward the distant town, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the underneath was not done with them. He glanced back over his shoulder, half expecting to see the sinkhole reappear, ready to drag them back into the darkness. The field was empty, but the memory of the voice, the one that had welcomed him, echoed in his mind. "You're not the first to fall." The words were a reminder, a warning. There were others still trapped in the underneath, others who might never find their way out. Jack made a silent vow then and there. He would return to the underneath one day, not for adventure, but to help those who were still lost in its depths. But for now, he was content to bask in the sunlight, grateful to be back in the world above, where the sky was open and the ground beneath his feet was solid. He was home.